Welcome to this quiet space, a place of growth, of stillness, and of soft discovery. As you settle into your blankets, allow your shoulders to drop and your breath to find its own natural, easy rhythm. There is nothing you need to do right now, and nowhere else you need to be. You are here to rest, and while you do, we will wander together through a world that moves much slower than our own, the vegetable kingdom. It is a realm of patient energy where life unfolds in millimeters and silence is the only language spoken. In the rush of the day, it is easy to overlook the quiet miracle of a garden. But as the lights dim and the world outside grows hushed, we can begin to appreciate the steady, rhythmic pulse of the plants that surround us. They do not hurry. They do not worry. They simply exist, turning sunlight into substance and earth into life. If you find this space helpful for your rest, and if these nightly journeys bring you comfort, you are always welcome to subscribe and join our quiet community. And if this moment feels right, a gentle like on this video helps keep our garden growing. But for now, simply let your mind drift. We often think we know exactly what a vegetable is, but the natural world sees things a little differently. In the world of botany, the true science of plants, the word vegetable doesn't actually exist as a formal category. It is a culinary term, a word we created for the kitchen. To a scientist, the things we grow are defined by their function. A fruit is the ripened ovary of a flowering plant designed to hold the seeds for the next generation. This means that many of the stars of our dinner plates, the snap of a green bean, the cool curve of a cucumber, the weight of a tomato, or the hollow ring of a bell pepper are, scientifically speaking, fruits. A true vegetable in the botanical sense is actually the vegetative part of the plant. These are the roots, the stems, and the leaves, the structural heart of the organism. When you eat a piece of kale, you are eating a leaf that has breathed in the air and captured the light. When you enjoy a stalk of asparagus, you are eating a young stem, and when you reach for a carrot, you are reaching for a root that has spent its entire life in the cool, dark embrace of the earth. It is a beautiful distinction, one that reminds us that everything we see in the garden has a specific, quiet purpose. Every part of the plant is a specialized tool for survival. Imagine now that you are looking down at the surface of a garden bed. The soil is dark, rich, and slightly damp. It smells of rain and ancient minerals. Beneath this surface, hidden from the light, a silent transformation is taking place. It is here, in the cool darkness of the earth, where the journey truly begins. Let's follow a single path down into the soil, where the roots are reaching out, steady and sure, anchoring the life above to the stillness below. Beneath the surface of the garden, there is a quiet, steady life that most of us never see. Imagine a single carrot nestled in its cool, dark cradle of earth. Its long, tapering body reaches downward in a slow, patient stretch, drawing in the minerals and the moisture of the deep soil. To look at a carrot today, we see a vibrant, sun-drenched orange, a color that seems to hum with energy. But it wasn't always this way. For most of human history, if you were to pull a carrot from the ground, you would have found something quite different, something more mysterious. In the ancient gardens of Central Asia thousands of years ago, The first carrots were thin, woody, and intensely purple, almost the color of a midnight sky. Some were a pale, creamy white, like a polished stone, and others were a soft, sunny yellow. The orange carrot we know and love today is actually a relatively recent arrival in the long, winding history of the vegetable kingdom. You might wonder how this shift from purple to orange happened. It is a story of patience and artistry. In the 17th century, Dutch growers began to experiment with the seeds of these yellow and purple roots. They were master gardeners, people who understood the slow rhythm of the seasons. History suggests they favored the orange variety, partly as a tribute to the Dutch royal house, the House of Orange. Through careful selection and years of quiet cultivation, they transformed the wild, multicolored roots into the bright, uniform orange stalks that now sit quietly in our kitchens. They chose the seeds that glowed the brightest, replanting them year after year until the orange carrot became the standard for the world. But there is a deeper, more elemental reason for that specific color. The orange hue comes from a pigment called beta-carotene. It is a powerful antioxidant, a tiny spark of energy stored within the root cells. When we eat a carrot, our bodies perform a slow internal alchemy, converting that beta-carotene into vitamin A, also known as retinol. This vitamin is essential for our vision, especially in the dim, soft light of the evening. It helps our eyes adjust to the shadows, allowing us to see the world with more clarity as the sun begins to set and the stars begin to appear. It is a beautiful cycle. The root gathers the energy of the earth, and the sun stores it in a vibrant, hidden color, and then shares that strength with us, helping us navigate the quiet darkness. As you rest now, you can almost visualize that steady orange glow hidden beneath the dark soil. The carrot doesn't need the light of the sun to be brilliant. It carries its own light within, protected by the cool weight of the earth, and that light is supported by the very ground it grows in. The soil is not just a dark space. It is a living, breathing environment rich with its own scents and secrets. As the carrot grows, it is surrounded by the heavy, sweet aroma of the damp earth, a scent that tells a story of life and renewal. It is a fragrance that many of us find deeply comforting, a signal that the earth is healthy and full of potential. You might recognize that specific fragrance, the one that rises from the ground after a long-awaited summer rain. It is a scent that feels both ancient and refreshing, a perfume of the planet itself. Scientists call this petrichor. It is the breath of the earth waking up, a mixture of plant oils and a very special compound called geosmin. This word, geosmin, comes from the Greek words for earth and smi, and it is this very substance that gives certain vegetables, like the humble beet, their deep, earthy character. When you slice into a beet, seeing that rich, velvet crimson, you are smelling the essence of the soil it was cradled in. The beet is like a sponge for the memories of the earth. It absorbs geosmin from the tiny, helpful bacteria living in the dirt, holding on to that fragrance so that when we taste it, we are tasting the very ground that gave it life. For some, this flavor is an acquired taste, but for others, it is deeply comforting, like the smell of a forest floor after a misty morning. There is something profoundly moving about our relationship with this scent. Humans are incredibly sensitive to geosmin, far more sensitive than we are to many other smells. In fact, we can detect it at concentrations as low as 5 parts per trillion. To imagine that, think of a single drop of water in a vast Olympic-sized swimming pool. Our noses are tuned to find that one tiny drop of earth scent in the air. This sensitivity is an ancient gift, a quiet whisper from our ancestors. Long ago, being able to smell the dampness of the earth meant being able to find water even from many miles away. It meant finding a place where plants could grow and where life could flourish. When you smell a beet or the air after a storm, you are tapping into a survival trait that has kept us connected to the natural world for thousands of years. It is a reminder that we are never truly separate from the land. We are built to find our way back to it. Take a slow, deep breath now, as if you are standing in a garden just after the clouds have passed. Feel the coolness of that imagined air in your lungs. As you exhale, let yourself feel as grounded as a root tucked away in the soft, dark soil. There is no rush, no noise, only the steady, quiet pulse of the earth beneath you. You are safe, you are held, and you are part of this living system. The beet, with its heavy, round body and its crown of leafy greens, is just one of the many treasures hidden in the darkness. As we move deeper into the garden, we find other quiet residents who spend their lives away from the sun, gathering scents in the silence. These are the tubers and roots that form the foundation of our world, resting beneath the surface while the seasons pass above them. Among them is a vegetable so familiar we often overlook its magic, the potato, a humble traveler that has journeyed across oceans and mountains to become one of the most diverse and dependable companions in our history. The potato is often thought of as simple, perhaps even plain, but if we look closer, we find a story of incredible resilience and quiet variety. While we might only see a few types in our local markets, the dusty brown russet or the waxy red skin, the world of the potato is far more colorful and vast than many realize. High in the Andes Mountains of South America, where the air is thin and the nights are cold, the potato has thrived for thousands of years. In these rugged highlands, there are over 4,000 varieties of native potatoes. Imagine that for a moment, 4,000 different ways for a single plant to express itself. Some are deep midnight purple all the way through. Others are splashed with bright pink or sunset orange. Some are shaped like smooth river stones, while others are knobby and twisted like the gnarled branches of an ancient tree. Each one is a unique response to the specific patch of earth it calls home, a silent testament to the diversity of life hidden just beneath our feet. As you lie there, perhaps feeling the heavy, comforting weight of your own body against the mattress, think of the potato tucked into its cool, dark bed of soil. To the plant, the potato is not just a vegetable. It is a miracle of storage. It is a biological battery. During the long, sunny days of summer, the leaves above the ground work tirelessly, drinking in the golden sunlight and turning it into energy. But the plant is wise. It does not use all that energy at once. Instead, it sends the surplus down into the earth, carefully packing it away into these underground chambers in the form of starch. Starch is a beautiful, complex molecule, a long chain of sugars held together waiting for the right moment to be released. This is how the plant survives the harshness of winter. When the air turns bitter and the green leaves above eventually wither and fade, the life of the plant remains safe and warm beneath the frost line. It is resting, holding on to its golden store of energy, waiting in the stillness for the first touch of spring to wake it up. In a way, your rest tonight is very much like the quiet work of the potato. As you drift toward sleep, your body is doing its own version of storing and repairing. You are setting aside the busyness of the day, allowing your mind to tuck away memories and your muscles to recover their strength. You are building up your own reserves, preparing for the light of a new morning. There is no guilt in this stillness. It is the most natural thing in the world to recharge in the dark. Feel that sense of quiet preparation. The earth is full of these hidden treasures, all waiting in the silence. But the journey of a plant doesn't end in the darkness of the soil. Eventually, every root and every tuber feels the call of the sun. The energy stored in the deep, quiet places begins to stir, pushing upward, breaking through the surface to meet the day. Let us leave the cool, damp embrace of the earth now. Imagine yourself rising slowly like a new sprout, moving through the layers of soil until you reach the air above. The world up here is different, bright, expansive, and filled with a different kind of magic. As the sun begins to crest over the horizon, it touches the first green leaves of the garden, beginning a silent, shimmering dance that sustains almost all life on our planet. As we emerge from the cool, dark soil, we find ourselves in a world bathed in soft, golden morning light. The air is fresh and still, and all around us, the garden is beginning its silent daily work. While we often think of movement as something fast and loud, the most important movements in the world are often the ones we cannot hear at all. Consider the humble spinach leaf, broad and thin, reaching out its green fingers to catch the first rays of the sun. In the world of science, we can think of these leaves as nature's original solar panels. They are perfectly designed to harvest the energy of the stars. Inside each individual cell are tiny, brilliant green structures called chloroplasts. These are filled with a pigment known as chlorophyll, the very substance that gives the garden its vibrant, life-giving hue. When a photon of light travels through the vastness of space and finally touches the surface of a leaf, the chlorophyll captures that tiny burst of energy. It is a quiet, invisible miracle. The leaf uses that captured sunlight to split water molecules and combine them with carbon dioxide from the air. It weaves these simple elements together into the sugars that help the plant grow tall and strong. This process, photosynthesis, is a gentle alchemy that sustains almost every living thing on our planet, happening in total silence right before our eyes. But as the sun climbs higher in the sky, you might wonder how these delicate leaves survive the warmth. If you were to stand in the direct sun all day, you would feel your skin grow warm, perhaps uncomfortably so. How does a leaf, so thin and fragile, stay cool and hydrated under the steady gaze of the sun? The answer lies in a beautiful cooling process called transpiration. Just as you might feel a refreshing chill when a light breeze brushes against you, the plant uses water to regulate its own temperature. Deep within the roots we just visited, water is drawn up through the stem and into the veins of the leaves. As the sun warms the leaf, some of this water evaporates through tiny microscopic pores on the leaf's underside. These pores are called stomata, and they are truly the lungs of the plant kingdom. If you could look through a powerful lens, you would see thousands of these tiny openings, like little mouths that open and close with the rhythm of the day. Through these stomata, the plant breathes. It exhales the fresh oxygen that we breathe in, and it inhales the carbon dioxide it needs to create its food. As you lie there now, taking a slow, easy breath, you might imagine the billions of leaves across the world doing the exact same thing. It is a global green respiration, a slow, steady pulse of life that keeps the air clean and the world in balance. Even as you drift toward sleep, the plants are working for you, exhaling the very air that fills your lungs. The structure of these leaves is not just functional, it is incredibly intricate. If you look closely at the network of veins in a leaf, you see a map of perfect efficiency branching out like the delta of a great river or the vessels in your own heart. This geometry of nature is never accidental. It follows a design of profound precision and beauty. Sometimes this natural architecture takes on forms so organized and so repetitive that they seem almost like a dream of mathematics brought to life in the garden. Imagine then a vegetable that looks as though it was sculpted by a mathematician in a moment of quiet inspiration. This is the Romanesco broccoli. If you have ever held a head of Romanesco in your hands, you know its color is a soft, glowing lime green, and its surface is unlike any other plant in the garden. Instead of the rounded, cloud-like florets of the standard broccoli you might find in a steamer basket, the Romanesco is composed of a series of intricate pointed cones. Each cone spirals upward and outward in a perfect, repeating pattern that seems to pull your gaze deeper into its structure. This is what scientists and artists call a fractal. A fractal is a shape that looks the same whether you look at it from far away or very close up. If you were to gently break off one small piece of the Romanesco, you would see that it is a tiny, perfect replica of the entire head. And if you looked even closer at a smaller piece of that piece, the pattern would repeat again and again. It is a visual echo that goes on and on, a sequence of self-similarity that feels both infinitely complex and deeply, fundamentally peaceful. These spirals are not random. They follow a specific mathematical progression known as the Fibonacci sequence. In this sequence, each number is the sum of the two preceding ones. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, and so on. In the Romanesco, the number of spirals moving in one direction and the number of spirals moving in the opposite direction are almost always consecutive numbers in this sequence. This is the same math that governs the curve of a nautilus shell in the deep ocean, the arrangement of seeds in a sunflower reaching for the light, and the vast swirling arms of distant galaxies. It is a universal language written in the very fabric of the living world. There is something profoundly settling about this realization as you prepare for rest. As you lie there, your own breath following its steady natural rhythm, you can trust in the hidden order of the world around you. You don't have to calculate these patterns or understand the complex equations behind them. You only need to observe their quiet grace. Nature's mathematical precision is not cold or rigid. It is a calming, repeating song. It is the assurance that there is a logic to growth, a symmetry to life that persists even when we are at rest. The garden is a place of organized peace, where every leaf and every floret knows exactly where it belongs in the grand design. While the Romanesco may be the most visually striking example of this geometry, it belongs to a much larger and very familiar family of plants. When you see those spiraling cones, you're looking at a specialized version of a flower bud that stayed tightly tucked away. This puts the Romanesco in the company of some of the most common and nourishing vegetables in our kitchens. This family, known to botanists as the brassicas, is a diverse group that has shared our tables for thousands of years. From the tight, waxy leaves of a cabbage to the sturdy stalks of common broccoli, they all share a common ancestry, a single wild spark that eventually branched out into a dozen different forms. Among these relatives is a plant so vibrant and sturdy that it has earned a royal title in the world of leafy greens. This brings us to a plant often hailed as the Queen of Greens, the sturdy, resilient kale. You might picture its deep, ruffled leaves, sometimes a dusty blue-green, sometimes a regal purple, standing tall and firm in the garden, even when the first frost begins to settle on the ground. There is a certain strength in kale, a hardiness that allows it to thrive when other plants might wilt and fade. Its texture is thick and crinkled, designed to hold on to the dew of the morning and the nutrients of the earth. But there is a secret hidden within these leaves, one that connects kale to many of the other vegetables you know and love. While they look remarkably different, kale, broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, and even kohlrabi are actually all members of the exact same species, Brassica oleracea. It is a thought that feels almost impossible when you compare the dense, heavy head of a cabbage to the tiny, intricate buds of a Brussels sprout, yet they are siblings in the truest sense, sharing a single ancestral lineage. This incredible diversity is the result of a long, slow partnership between humans and the natural world. Thousands of years ago, there was only a simple wild mustard plant growing quietly along the limestone cliffs of the Mediterranean and Atlantic coasts. It had small yellow flowers and sparse bitter leaves, but as ancient gardeners began to tend to these wild plants, they noticed subtle differences. Some plants had larger leaves, so they saved those seeds, and over centuries, those plants became the kale and collard greens we recognize today. Other gardeners preferred the plants with tight, unexpanded leaf buds, and through patient selection over hundreds of generations, they cultivated the cabbage. Some focused on the flowering heads, leading to the development of broccoli and cauliflower, while others looked for the thickest, hardiest stems, giving rise to kohlrabi. This process, known as selective breeding, was not a hurried or loud endeavor. It was a quiet, generational conversation, a slow dance of observation and care that transformed one humble wildflower into a vast kingdom of nourishment. As you think of this, you might take a moment to adjust your pillow, letting your shoulders soften into the mattress. Imagine the vast, rolling fields where these greens grow, a sea of different shapes and shades of emerald, all stemming from that one resilient ancestor. There is a deep sense of continuity here, a reminder that even the most varied and complex things often share a simple, common beginning. You can feel that same sense of connection within yourself, a steady, unchanging core beneath the many layers of your day. The garden is full of these sturdy, earthbound structures. But as we move further into the rows of the vegetable kingdom, the textures begin to change. We leave behind the dense fibers and the heavy, waxy leaves of the brassicas and turn our attention toward a different kind of growth, one that is lighter, clearer, and filled with the refreshing essence of the rain. We are moving now toward the vegetables that are defined by their clarity and their remarkable ability to hold on to the coolness of the earth even under the warmth of the sun. Imagine a summer afternoon, the air thick and warm, the sun casting long golden shadows across the garden. In the middle of this heat, there is a quiet green sanctuary, the cucumber. You might have heard the old saying that someone is as cool as a cucumber, and science tells us this is far more than just a pleasant figure of speech. Even on a sweltering day, when the soil feels baked and the air is heavy, the internal temperature of a cucumber can be up to 20 degrees cooler than the world around it. It is a remarkable feat of nature, a small living reservoir of refreshing stillness tucked away beneath a canopy of broad, prickly leaves. This natural air conditioning is possible because the cucumber is composed of about 95% water. It is, in many ways, a beautifully structured vessel of hydration. This high water content acts as a thermal buffer, absorbing the heat of the sun very slowly and holding on to the deep, restorative coolness it gathered during the dew-filled hours of the early morning. As you breathe in, you might imagine that same sense of clarity, a clean, crisp coolness that settles over your senses like a soft mist. The secret to this internal temperature lies in the way the cucumber manages its moisture. Its skin is a masterpiece of botanical design, a waxy protective barrier that prevents its precious water from escaping too quickly. Inside, the water is held within a delicate network of cells that facilitate a slow, constant process of internal evaporation. As the plant transpires, it naturally draws heat away from its core, maintaining a steady low temperature that remains remarkably consistent. It is a quiet, effortless process of regulation, much like the way your own body knows how to find its own rhythm of rest as you drift closer to sleep. Think of the texture of a fresh cucumber, the way it snaps, with a clean, watery sound, releasing a scent that is light and invigorating. This crunch is a sign of its vitality, a testament to the internal pressure of the water held within its walls. As you relax into your bed, you might feel a similar sense of lightness, as if the heavy thoughts of the day are being washed away by a cool, gentle stream. You are grounded, yet you feel as unburdened as a vine trailing across the garden floor. While we often slice these cool green cylinders into our salads and treat them as the quintessence of the vegetable garden, the cucumber hides a secret identity. Botanically speaking, it is not a vegetable at all. Because it develops from a flower and contains seeds within its fleshy body, it belongs to the world of fruits. It is a member of the gourd family, a cousin to the melon and the pumpkin, masquerading as a savory garden staple. This realization opens a door to a curious corner of the botanical world, where the lines between fruit and vegetable begin to blur. Many of the most beloved residents of our gardens are living these double lives, carrying the botanical markers of a fruit while fulfilling the culinary role of a vegetable. And as we look closer at these misunderstood wonders, we find a story that once even reached the highest courts of the land, centered around a bright, juicy inhabitant of the summer vine that we have come to know and love in a very specific way. Perhaps the most famous of these botanical mysteries is the tomato. Imagine a vine-ripened tomato, heavy and warm from the afternoon sun, resting gently in the palm of your hand. Its skin is smooth and taut, holding within it a world of juice and life. For generations, we have debated its true nature, wondering if it belongs in the fruit bowl or the vegetable crisper. This gentle confusion once grew so significant that it reached the quiet, hallowed halls of the United States Supreme Court. In the year 1893, in a case known as Nix versus Hedden, the highest court in the land was asked to settle the matter once and for all. At the time, there were specific taxes placed on imported vegetables, while fruit remained free of such duties. The importers argued that because the tomato was botanically a fruit, it should not be taxed. You can almost imagine the hushed atmosphere of that courtroom, the rustle of papers, and the steady ticking of a clock as the justices pondered the essence of a garden plant. The court eventually reached a decision that reflects how we experience the world through our senses rather than through a textbook. They acknowledged that botanically, the tomato is indeed a fruit. However, they ruled that for the purposes of trade and daily life, it should be classified as a vegetable. They looked at how we live our lives, how the tomato is served during the main course of a meal, tucked into savory stews and crisp salads, rather than being treated as a sweet, sugary dessert. It was a decision based on the rhythm of the kitchen and the shared habits of the dinner table. It reminds us that things can be two things at once, depending on how we choose to look at them. But when we look away from the ledgers of history and back to the quiet wisdom of the plant itself, the biological truth is even more fascinating. The tomato is not just a fruit, it is technically a berry. It grows from the ovary of a single flower and carries its seeds on the inside, protected by a soft, pulpy flesh. As you breathe out, imagine slicing into a perfectly ripe tomato. You see the intricate chambers, the delicate walls, and the many tiny shimmering seeds suspended in a clear jelly-like substance. Each of those seeds is a tiny capsule of potential, a quiet promise of a future vine waiting for its moment to return to the cool, dark earth. There is a deep peace in the tomato structure. It is designed to be soft, to be yielding, and to protect its legacy within its own heart. As you settle deeper into your bed, you might think about the vibrant colors that these fruit vegetables display as they mature on the vine. The transition from a hard, pale green orb to a soft, glowing red is a slow and beautiful process. It is a silent language spoken by the plant as it prepares to share its bounty with the world. These colors are more than just a visual delight. They are a map of the plant's journey through the season. From the deep, rich reds of the tomato to the vibrant oranges and yellows of its garden neighbors, these hues tell a story of being passing in the most peaceful way possible. They are the result of the plant absorbing every possible drop of sunlight, turning the energy of the day into a spectrum of color that we can see and feel. As we watch the garden change, we see the same quiet transformation that happens within ourselves as we move from the busyness of the day into the stillness of the night. As you continue to rest, your mind might wander to another vibrant resident of the garden, often found growing right alongside the tomato. Imagine the bell pepper, with its smooth, waxy skin and its hollow, echoing center. In the quiet heat of midsummer, these peppers hang heavy on their stems, beginning their lives as a deep, grassy green. This green is the color of chlorophyll, the hard-working molecule that allows the plant to drink in the sun's energy. But as the days grow long and the air turns still, a quiet transformation begins to take place within the walls of the pepper. If you were to watch a bell pepper over many days, you would see the green slowly begin to fade like a mist clearing at dawn. This is the chlorophyll breaking down, its work of gathering energy nearly complete. As the green retreats, it reveals a hidden world of color that was there all along, tucked away beneath the surface. These are the carotenoids, the same pigments that give a sunset its glow or a fallen leaf its golden hue. In the bell pepper, these pigments turn the skin into a brilliant, glossy red, a signal to the world that the fruit has reached its peak of maturity. There is a beautiful patience in this process. A red bell pepper is not a different variety than a green one. It is simply a green pepper that has been allowed to stay on the vine a little longer, basking in the warmth and taking its time to ripen. Because it has spent those extra weeks soaking up the sun's rays, it has undergone a deep chemical shift. This extra time in the light allows the pepper to concentrate its nutrients in a way few other plants can match. You might be surprised to learn that a single red bell pepper contains significantly more vitamin C than a typical orange. While we often think of citrus as the ultimate source of this vital nutrient, the humble pepper, through its long and quiet residence in the summer sun, manages to double or even triple that amount. It is as if the pepper has bottled the very essence of the sunshine, storing it away in its crisp, sweet walls. As you breathe slowly, imagine that stored warmth, a gentle energy gathered over months of stillness, now resting quietly in the garden. The bell pepper and the tomato share more than just their vibrant colors and their love for the sun. They belong to a vast and ancient botanical family known as the Solanaceae, or more commonly, the nightshades. It is a family filled with character and mystery, spanning thousands of species across the globe. Some members of this family provide us with our most basic comforts, while others carry a more complex history. As we move through the garden, we leave the bright reds of the peppers behind and turn our attention to a relative that carries a deeper, more regal hue. A plant that wears a coat of dark velvet and grows with a heavy, contemplative grace. As we continue our stroll through this quiet garden, we find ourselves standing before a plant that carries a sense of regal weight and quiet mystery. This is the eggplant, a vegetable that seems to embody the very essence of a peaceful evening. Its skin is often a deep, luxurious violet, so smooth and glossy it looks as though it has been polished by the night air itself. If you were to reach out in your mind and touch it, you would feel a cool, firm surface that somehow possesses a visual softness, like a piece of dark velvet resting among the broad green leaves. There is a curious history behind the names we give this plant. In some parts of the world, it is still called an aubergine, while in others, it is the eggplant, a name that comes from older varieties that grew in small, white oval shapes, looking for all the world like clusters of eggs hanging from a branch. But perhaps its most intriguing old name is the mad apple. Centuries ago, in the early days of its journey across Europe, some believed that this beautiful fruit could cause a gentle wandering of the mind if eaten too often. We know now, of course, that it is a nourishing and calm presence in the garden. But the name lingers as a reminder of the respect and wonder people have always felt for the nightshade family. The eggplant, like the peppers and tomatoes we visited earlier, belongs to the Solanaceae family. This family is known for its complex chemistry, and the eggplant holds a small secret within its purple walls. It is a distant relative of the tobacco plant, and because of this connection, it actually contains a tiny trace amount of nicotine. It is a very small amount, so small it would take dozens of eggplants to equal even a fraction of what is found elsewhere. But for the plant, it serves as a quiet internal protection. It is a natural way for the eggplant to keep itself safe from the tiny insects that might wander by, allowing it to grow in peace without the need for louder defenses. As you watch the eggplant in the stillness of the garden, you might notice how heavily it hangs, unlike the light, airy leaves of a herb or the climbing tendrils of a pea plant. The eggplant is substantial. It grows with a heavy, contemplative grace, its weight pulling the branches toward the earth. It does not sway much in the breeze. Instead, it remains anchored and still, a solid point of deep color in the shifting green. There is a profound sense of groundedness in this plant, a feeling that it is perfectly content to be exactly where it is, soaking up the nutrients from the soil and growing at its own unhurried pace. This sense of weight and stillness is a beautiful contrast to the rest of the garden, where other plants find different ways to thrive. While the eggplant grows in its solitary, regal fashion, we can look toward a nearby patch where a different kind of wisdom is at work. Here, we find a community of plants that have learned to grow not just beside one another, but for one another. This is an ancient and sacred partnership often called the Three Sisters. It is a system of mutual support where three very different vegetables live in a gentle, living embrace. As we turn our attention toward them, the first sister we see is the tallest, rising up toward the sky to provide a sturdy path for the others to follow. Rising high above the other plants in this shared space, the first sister is the corn, or maize. It stands like a gentle sentinel in the garden, its long blade-like leaves reaching out to catch the golden sunlight. There is a quiet structural strength in the way a cornstalk grows. It is built to be a pillar, a sturdy anchor that holds its ground even when the evening breezes begin to move through the field. If you were to stand in the center of a cornfield, you would feel sheltered by these tall green walls as they sway in a slow, rhythmic dance that follows the breath of the earth. As the corn grows, it begins to produce ears, tucked safely and snugly against its stalk behind layers of protective husks. If you have ever peeled back the green husk of an ear of corn, you have seen the delicate, shimmering threads we call corn silk. These are not just decorative, they are a marvel of biological engineering. Each individual silk is actually a long, thin tube connected to exactly one potential kernel of corn. For a full, healthy ear of corn to develop, every single silk must receive a tiny grain of pollen. It is a quiet, hidden process happening right before our eyes, where hundreds of individual connections are made to ensure the plant can create its golden treasure. Unlike many other plants that rely on the bright colors of flowers to attract bees or butterflies, the corn trusts the air. At the very top of the stalk, the tassels release a fine golden dust of pollen into the wind. As the breeze moves through the garden, it carries this pollen downward, where it is caught by the sticky, waiting silks below. This is the incredible efficiency of wind pollination. It is a silent, invisible exchange, a gift carried on the air from the heights of the plant to the cradled ears below. There is something deeply peaceful about this reliance on the wind, a reminder that nature often provides exactly what is needed through the simplest of means. Take a moment now to imagine the sound of that wind. It isn't a harsh or cold wind, but a soft summer sigh. As it passes through the long, papery leaves of the corn, it creates a sound like a gentle whisper or the rustle of silk against silk. Imagine that rhythmic shh sound filling the quiet air. It is the sound of the garden breathing. Let your own breath match that slow, steady rhythm. In and out, in and out. Feel your shoulders soften and your body settle deeper into your bed, as rounded and calm as the cornstalk standing tall in the moonlight. While the corn provides the structure and the height, it does not stand alone in this peaceful community. Wrapped around its sturdy stalk, we find the second sister. She is a climber, a weaver, and a provider of a different kind of strength. As we look closer at the base of the corn, we see the delicate wending vines of the beans beginning their ascent, reaching up to embrace the pillar that the corn has so generously offered. These beans bring a secret gift to the soil, a quiet magic that keeps the entire garden healthy and vibrant. As the bean vines spiral upward, wrapping their tender tendrils around the corn's sturdy stalk, they perform a quiet dance of support and gratitude. This relationship is not merely about physical space. It is a deep biological conversation. While the corn reaches for the light, the beans are doing something remarkable with the very air that surrounds them. Most plants can only take nutrients from the soil through their roots, but beans and their cousins in the legume family have a special hidden talent that feels almost like magic. They are what we call nitrogen fixers. Imagine, as you take a slow, easy breath of the cool air in your room, that these plants are doing something very similar. The air we breathe is mostly made of nitrogen, an essential element for all life. Yet most plants cannot use it in its gaseous form. It is all around them, yet out of reach. But the humble bean has found a way to bridge this gap. Through a beautiful partnership with friendly microscopic organisms in the soil, the bean inhales this nitrogen from the atmosphere and brings it down into the earth. If you were to gently brush away the soil from the roots of a bean plant, you would see tiny round bumps called nodules. These are like small protected nurseries where the plant hosts its microbial partners. Inside these quiet chambers, the nitrogen is transformed from a wandering gas into a rich, solid nutrient that the plant can finally use. It is a selfless act of biology. The beans do not keep all this nourishment for themselves. Instead, they share it, allowing the nitrogen to seep into the surrounding earth, enriching the ground for every plant nearby. They are the earth's natural fertilizers, giving back more than they take. While many crops can exhaust the soil over time, the beans leave the earth richer, softer, and more vibrant than they found it. It is a cycle of quiet generosity, a reminder that growth does not always have to be a competition. Sometimes the most successful way to live is by helping those around you to flourish as well. As you settle deeper into your pillow, you might imagine this silent work happening in the dark, cool spaces beneath the garden, a gentle, constant restoration of the world's energy, much like the way sleep restores your own. This harmony of the corn and the bean creates a space of perfect balance, where height meets strength and hunger meets abundance. But this ancient partnership is not yet complete. While the corn stands tall and the beans climb high, there is a third presence resting at their feet. Spreading out across the dark, moist earth is a living carpet of wide green leaves, the final member of this botanical family, waiting to play its vital part in the garden's peaceful protection. This third sister watches over the soil, ensuring that the life within it remains cool, hydrated, and safe under her watchful care. Imagine the squash plant spreading its wide, heart-shaped leaves across the garden floor, much like a soft green quilt being pulled slowly over a bed. These leaves are the protective canopy of the vegetable kingdom. While the corn reaches for the light and the beans wind their way upward, the squash stays close to the earth, fulfilling a quiet but essential role. It is the guardian of the soil. If you were to lift one of those large, slightly fuzzy leaves, you would find the soil beneath it is surprisingly cool to the touch, even on the warmest afternoon. These leaves act as living umbrellas, trapping the moisture in the ground and preventing the thirsty sun from drinking it away. By shading the earth, the squash ensures that the roots of its sisters, the corn and the beans, stay hydrated and comfortable. It is a natural mulch, a living layer of insulation. It also prevents smaller, more restless plants from finding enough light to grow, acting as a silent sentinel that keeps the garden space clear and peaceful. In this ancient way of planting, known as the Three Sisters, we see a perfect circle of care. It is a masterpiece of indigenous agricultural wisdom, a system where every member has a specific purpose that supports the others. The corn stands as a sturdy, tall pole for the beans to climb toward the sun. The beans, in turn, stabilize the corn stalks against the wind and feed the soil with the nitrogen we spoke of earlier. And finally, the squash spreads its broad leaves to protect the very foundation they all share, keeping the earth moist and cool for the entire family. There is no competition here, only a gentle, rhythmic cooperation. It is a reminder that in nature, as in our own lives, we are often at our best when we are part of a supportive whole, tucked safely into a community where we can all flourish. Take a slow, deep breath, and as you exhale, imagine yourself as part of that peaceful garden, supported, nourished, and completely protected. The garden is a place of physical harmony, but it also contains a hidden internal world of chemistry. Just as the squash protects the soil with its shade, there are other vegetables that offer a different kind of sanctuary, a quietness for the nervous system itself. Beyond the structure of stems and leaves, some plants carry within them the very essence of rest. Within their crisp fibers and milky sap are compounds designed by nature to soothe, settle, and prepare the living world for the deep restorative quiet of the night. We are moving now from the wide protective leaves of the squash to the delicate cooling heart of the leafy greens that have long been known to help us find our way toward sleep. Think of the humble lettuce leaf. It sits quietly in the garden, often overlooked for its more colorful neighbors, appearing to be little more than structured water and light. But within its crisp green folds, lettuce carries a secret that has been known for thousands of years, a hidden chemistry that speaks directly to our need for rest. If you have ever snapped the stem of a wild lettuce plant, or even certain varieties of heirloom garden lettuce, you might have noticed a tiny drop of white, milky fluid seeping from the break. This isn't just simple sap. It is a substance known as lactucarium. Lactucarium is a fascinating botanical compound. In historical texts, it was sometimes referred to as lettuce opium, not because it is related to the poppy, but because of its remarkably similar, though much gentler, effect on the human body. It is a natural substance that acts as a mild sedative, a gift from the earth designed to soothe. In the ancient world, from the sun-drenched courts of Egypt to the quiet villas of Rome, lettuce was prized not just as a cool refreshment, but as a remedy for restlessness. It was widely believed that a few leaves of lettuce at the end of a long, busy day could help the mind untangle itself from the stresses of the afternoon and prepare the spirit for the silence of the night. Modern science has looked closer at this milky sap and found compounds like lactoheusin and lactocopicrin. These molecules interact with your nervous system in a very specific, calming way. They don't force sleep upon you with a heavy hand. Instead, they work like a soft hand on the shoulder, gently lowering the volume of the world around you. They encourage a slow, steady rhythm in the body and a softening of the muscles. As you imagine the cooling sensation of a crisp leaf, you can almost feel that same coolness spreading through your own senses, hydrating your body while the plant's hidden chemistry begins its quiet, restorative work. This is why a simple green salad in the evening is more than just a light meal. It is a biological signal to your brain. As you enjoy the crunch of the leaves, you are participating in a very old ritual of transition. The high water content of the lettuce helps to slightly lower your core body temperature, a process your body naturally seeks to undergo as it prepares to drift off. It is nature's own lullaby, delivered through the roots and the soil. As you breathe in the cool imaginary air of the garden, you can feel the tension leaving your jaw and your shoulders. You are as supported as a seedling in soft earth. But the garden holds more than just these cooling, sleepy greens. As we leave the soft, quiet world of the lettuce patch, we begin to encounter the more spirited members of the vegetable kingdom. These are the plants that hide deep in the soil, wrapping themselves in layer upon layer of protection. They are the aromatics, the vegetables that don't just sit quietly, but instead fill the air with a scent that is both sharp and grounding. We turn our attention now to the onion, a vegetable of many layers and even more mysteries, waiting to be gently peeled away in the moonlight. Consider the onion, resting quietly in the cool, dark corner of a pantry or tucked deep within the loose, crumbly soil. It is a vegetable defined by its architecture, a series of concentric spheres, each one protecting the next. When you touch an onion, you feel that outer layer, a skin as thin and dry as ancient parchment. It crinkles softly under your fingertips, a sound like a distant autumn leaf skittering across a stone path. It is a tactile reminder of the plant's patience, a protective cloak designed to keep the moisture held tightly within. As you move past that papery exterior, you find the flesh of the onion, pale, crisp, and full of stored energy. These layers are not actually roots, but rather thickened leaf bases. They are the plant's way of hoarding life, keeping a reservoir of nutrients tucked away so it can survive through the cold, dormant months of winter. It is a patient vegetable, content to wait in the dark until the conditions are just right to send up a green shoot toward the sun. There is a sense of security in that structure, a nested world where the core is always shielded by the layers that came before. But the onion has a secret, a quiet form of self-defense that we have all experienced. You might remember a time in a brightly lit kitchen, perhaps as the sun was setting, when the simple act of slicing an onion brought a sting to your eyes and a gentle flow of tears. This isn't just a quirk of the vegetable, it is a complex chemical ballet. When the cells of an onion are broken, two substances that are normally kept separate, enzymes called alliinases and sulfur-rich compounds, suddenly meet and react. This reaction creates a volatile gas known as syn-propanethyl. As this gas drifts upward and reaches the moisture on the surface of your eyes, it transforms into a very mild form of sulfuric acid. Your body, in its wisdom, responds by producing tears to wash the irritation away. It is a fascinating immediate dialogue between the plant and the person. It is a moment of pure raw chemistry, happening right in the palm of your hand. For the onion, this is a brilliant evolutionary strategy. In the wild, a hungry rodent or a wandering animal might try to take a bite of the bulb buried in the earth. The sudden, sharp release of this gas serves as a warning, a biological no that encourages the creature to move along and find a different meal. It is the plant's way of protecting its future, ensuring that its stored energy remains intact so it can one day flower and produce seed. It is a small, silent warrior of the garden. Even though this defense feels sharp, there is something deeply grounding about the onion's nature. Once it is heated, that sharp defensive chemistry dissolves. The sulfur compounds break down and transform into sugars, turning the pungent bulb into something soft, golden, and incredibly sweet. It is a reminder that even the most guarded things can soften and change when given time, patience, and warmth. As you think of those many layers, imagine your own thoughts as layers of a gentle onion. You can let the outer layers, the worries of the day, the lists of things to do, simply peel away one by one. Let them fall away until you reach the quiet, still center of yourself. Take a slow, deep breath of the air around you. It is clean and clear, free of any sharpness, filling your lungs with a sense of space and ease. Feel your chest rise and fall in a steady rhythmic wave, like the slow pulse of a garden at rest. The onion does not stand alone in its cleverness. It belongs to a distinguished family of aromatics called the alliums. This family is known for its strength and its ability to thrive in a variety of soils. And just a few steps away in our imaginary garden, we find its most famous relative, a plant that has been revered for thousands of years as both a culinary treasure and a powerful protector. We turn our attention now toward the garlic, huddled in its own white papery robes, waiting to reveal its ancient strength and the secrets hidden within its cloves. Garlic, often affectionately called the stinking rose, is a plant of deep history and quiet, enduring strength. As you imagine holding a bulb of garlic in your hand, you might notice its weight, solid and dependable, and the way its outer layers of papery skin rustle with a sound as soft as a whisper. These thin, translucent husks act like a delicate veil, protecting the cluster of cloves nestled tightly inside. Each clove is a tiny powerhouse of potential, waiting for the right moment to share its essence with the world. The true magic of garlic lies in a process of biological alchemy that happens only when the plant is disturbed. Inside the cells of the garlic, there are two separate components, a compound called alliin and an enzyme known as alliinase. As long as the clove remains whole and still, these two stay apart, living in peaceful harmony. But when the clove is crushed or sliced, these two elements finally meet. In an instant, they react to create a remarkable molecule called allicin. Allicin is garlic's natural shield. In the science of the garden, it is known for its incredible antimicrobial properties. It is a potent, living defense system that the plant uses to keep itself healthy while it grows in the damp, dark earth. It wards off tiny intruders and keeps the bulb safe from the pressures of its environment. When we consume garlic, we are, in a sense, borrowing that ancient protection for ourselves. For thousands of years, this has been more than just a culinary staple. It has been a symbol of resilience and vitality. If you look back through the long corridors of human history, you will find garlic mentioned in the stories of almost every great civilization. Perhaps most famously, it was a vital part of life for the ancient Egyptians. The workers who labored to build the great pyramids, those massive, silent monuments that still stand against the horizon today, were given daily rations of garlic. It was believed that this simple bulb provided the physical stamina and the health needed to move heavy stones under the vast, open sky to those ancient builders. Garlic was a source of grounding energy, a gift from the earth that allowed them to persevere. You can almost feel that connection now, a steady, golden thread of health that stretches back through the centuries, linking our quiet modern nights to the sun-drenched history of the past. Garlic is a patient plant. It is usually tucked into the soil in the autumn, where it rests through the coldest months. slowly developing its roots while the world above is covered in frost. It takes its time, gathering nutrients and building its strength over many months before it is finally ready to be harvested in the heat of midsummer. It is a vegetable that teaches us the value of waiting and the power of slow, steady growth. But as we move further into our moonlit garden, we encounter a different kind of energy. Not every plant is content to move at such a measured pace. While the garlic settles into the earth for the long haul, there are other vegetables that seem to be in a hurry to reach for the light. We transition now from the slow, sturdy world of the aromatics to a vegetable known for its incredible rapid ascent, a plant that seems to grow almost while you watch it in the stillness of a spring morning. We turn our attention toward the tall, elegant spears of the asparagus. As you look across the garden beds in the soft early light, you might see these slender, elegant spears beginning to break through the surface of the dark soil. Unlike the garlic, which spent long, quiet months tucked away in the cold earth, the asparagus is a creature of the immediate moment. It is one of the first true signs of the changing season, a herald of the warmth to come. These spears push upward with a focused, singular determination, their tips tightly closed like small, intricate brushes. The speed at which an asparagus spear grows is truly one of nature's small, quiet miracles. In the height of its peak season, when the soil has finally captured the sun's warmth and the days are stretching longer, a single spear can grow as much as 10 inches in just 24 hours. If you were to sit very still in the garden, perhaps with a warm cup of tea in your hands and the morning sun just beginning to touch your shoulders, you could almost imagine seeing it move. In the span of a single day, a spear that was barely a nub at dawn might be ready for harvest by the time the moon begins its nightly ascent. This rapid rise is fueled by a hidden reservoir of energy. Deep beneath the surface, the asparagus plant has a complex, powerful root system known as a crown. Throughout the previous year, the plant carefully gathered sunlight and nutrients, storing them away in these roots like a biological battery. When the conditions are finally right, it releases that stored potential in a sudden, beautiful burst of life. It is a reminder that even when things appear dormant, a great deal of preparation is happening just out of sight. There is a profound sense of peace in this kind of growth. It is not a frantic or loud process. It is a rhythmic, steady unfolding. The cells of the spear elongate with incredible efficiency, stretching toward the light in a silent, upward dance. Because they grow so quickly, the spears remain tender and crisp, filled with the fresh, clean essence of the spring earth. In the stillness of the morning, the garden feels alive with this gentle motion, a soft green pulse that speaks of resilience and the quiet power of starting anew. As we admire the rapid, energetic rise of the asparagus, we might find ourselves thinking about the energy it takes to grow and the energy we receive when we enjoy these gifts from the earth. Some vegetables are celebrated for their density and richness, while others are known for their remarkable lightness. This brings us to another long green stalk that shares the garden's quiet corners, though it moves at a much more modest pace than the asparagus. We find ourselves looking toward the crisp, ribbed stalks of celery. Celery has long held a unique place in our understanding of nutrition, often surrounded by a persistent and fascinating myth. You may have heard it described as a negative calorie food. The idea that the act of chewing and digesting a piece of celery actually burns more energy than the vegetable itself provides. While science tells us that negative calories are more of a poetic concept than a literal biological reality, the truth behind this myth reveals something quite interesting about the structural integrity of the plants we eat. It leads us into a deeper exploration of how certain vegetables build themselves out of little more than water and light. As you envision the long, slender stalks of celery, you might notice the way they stand so tall and firm, despite being made almost entirely of water. It is a quiet marvel of natural engineering. When you hold a piece of celery, you are holding a structure that is roughly 95% water, held together by a delicate but incredibly strong lattice of plant fibers. These fibers, known as cellulose, act like the architectural scaffolding of the vegetable. If you have ever pulled a thin string from a celery stalk, you have seen these fibers firsthand. They are the conduits that transport water from the deep roots all the way up to the leafy tops, keeping the plant hydrated and upright. In the stillness of your rest, think of how these tiny water-filled cells work together. Each cell is like a small pressurized balloon. When they are full and hydrated, the celery is crisp and has that signature snap. When the water leaves the plant, the pressure drops and the stalk becomes soft and flexible. It is a simple, beautiful system of hydration and support, a reminder of how vital water is to the strength and structure of everything that grows. There is a gentle curiosity surrounding celery and its relationship with energy. For a long time, it was whispered that celery was a negative calorie food. The idea that the very act of your body working to break down those tough cellulose fibers consumed more energy than the celery itself could offer. While modern science has found that this isn't strictly true, your body still gains a small amount of energy from every bite. The margin is incredibly narrow. The energy it takes to chew, swallow, and digest. The sturdy walls of the celery is nearly equal to the energy stored within it. It is as if the celery is a gift of hydration and texture that asks for almost nothing in return, leaving you feeling light and refreshed as you drift toward sleep. As you breathe slowly, feeling the weight of your own body settling into a state of deep relaxation, you might appreciate this quality of lightness. Celery does not demand much from the earth, and it does not demand much from you. It simply exists as a crisp, cooling presence in the garden, a testament to the power of water and the integrity of simple structures. But the vegetable kingdom is not just a world of greens and whites. As we move through the rows of the garden, leaving the pale, watery stalks of the celery behind, we begin to see a transformation. The light begins to catch on different surfaces, revealing a palette that is far more diverse than we might first imagine. Just as the sky changes from the bright blue of midday to the deep velvet shades of twilight, the plants around us carry their own spectrum of color. Our journey now takes us toward the deeper, more mysterious hues of the garden. Beyond the greens and the browns of the soil, there is a royal display of color, waiting to be discovered. We are moving toward the vibrant, deep tones that remind us of a sunset or a quiet evening shadow, the rich purples and blues that signal a different kind of strength and protection within the plant world. As the garden begins to glow with these new colors, we find ourselves looking closer at why nature chooses to paint its creations with such specific, beautiful intent. As you move deeper into the garden's quiet rows, the greens and whites of the celery begin to give way to a deeper, more regal palette. You might find yourself wondering why some vegetables, like the skin of an eggplant, the heart of purple carrot, or the leaves of red cabbage, wear such intense shades of violet and midnight blue. These colors are not just for show, they are a masterpiece of biological engineering, a testament to the quiet intelligence of the plant world. These deep, velvety hues are the work of a group of pigments called anthocyanins. In the plant kingdom, these pigments serve a purpose that is as functional as it is beautiful. You can think of them as a gentle, natural shield. Just as you might seek the cool shade of a tree on a bright afternoon, plants use anthocyanins to protect their delicate internal structures from the intensity of the sun's ultraviolet rays. By absorbing certain wavelengths of light, these pigments act like a layer of sunscreen, preventing the sun's energy from damaging the plant's DNA as it grows in the open field. It is a silent, constant defense, allowing the plant to bask in the light it needs for energy while remaining protected from the elements that might otherwise be too harsh. As you breathe in the cool evening air, imagine these deep colors as a blanket of protection, keeping the plant safe and sound. There is a wonderful symmetry in the way these pigments interact with us, too. When we consume these purple and blue vegetables, the same anthocyanins that protected the plant begin to work within our own bodies. They act as antioxidants, moving quietly through our systems to help maintain balance and support our natural well-being. It is a beautiful cycle of care. The plant protects itself from the sun, and in doing so, it creates a gift of health for those who eventually gather it. The presence of these colors is a reminder that nature often hides its most potent benefits in plain sight, wrapped in the most calming shades of the spectrum. The deep purple of a plum-colored radish, or the dark ink-like stain of a beet, is a signal of resilience and strength. It is a color that suggests the coming of night, a time for rest and repair, both for the garden and for you. But as we admire these sun-shielded colors, we notice the light beginning to dim even further, drawing our eyes down toward the very base of the plants, where the soil is damp and the shadows are long. We move away from the vegetables that reach upward for the sun and toward a world that thrives in the stillness of the dark. Here, tucked away in the cool, moist corners of the earth, we find a different kind of inhabitant, one that is often grouped with vegetables in our kitchens, but belongs to a mysterious kingdom all its own. We are entering the world of the fungi, where the mushrooms wait in the quiet, connecting the garden in ways we are only just beginning to understand. In the quiet, shaded corners of the garden, where the soil stays moist and cool, the mushrooms emerge like small, pale lanterns. Although we often treat them as vegetables in our kitchens, they are the silent architects of a kingdom all their own. If you were to look beneath the surface of the soil, you would find that the mushrooms we see are only a small part of a much larger, more intricate story. Stretching out in every direction is a vast, invisible web of delicate, silver-white threads known as mycelium. These threads are so fine that a single teaspoon of healthy garden soil can contain miles of them, weaving through the dark earth like a soft, living lace. This hidden network is often called the Wood Wide Web, and it acts as the garden's very own communication system. As you lie still and imagine the earth beneath you, think of these threads gently wrapping around the roots of the vegetables we visited. The carrots, the onions, and the tall stalks of corn are all connected by this subterranean map. It is a partnership based on quiet, mutual support. The plants, which have the gift of turning sunlight into sugar, share some of that energy with the fungi. In return, the mycelium reaches into tiny crevices of the soil that roots cannot reach, bringing back water and essential minerals to help the vegetables grow strong. But the connection goes even deeper than a simple trade of nutrients. Through this network, the garden actually speaks to itself. If a plant on one side of the garden is feeling the stress of a dry spell, it can send chemical signals through the mycelium to its neighbors. These signals act as a gentle nudge, allowing the other plants to prepare themselves and conserve their resources. In this way, the garden is not just a collection of individual plants, but a single, breathing community that looks out for its own. There is no competition here, only a slow, steady flow of information and core moving through the darkness to ensure the well-being of the whole. Take a moment now to feel the weight of your own body, supported and held, much like the roots in the soil. Breathe in slowly, and as you exhale, imagine the peace of that interconnected world. You are part of a vast and beautiful system of life where every living thing has a place and a purpose. Just as the mycelium connects the forest and the garden, there is a thread of stillness that connects you to the natural world. There is nothing you need to do right now but rest and feel the quiet strength of this connection. As we drift further into the stillness of the garden floor, the mushrooms continue their silent work, breaking down what is old to make room for what is new. Our journey through the visible world of leaves and roots begins to narrow, focusing down on something even smaller and more concentrated. In the heart of every vegetable and tucked away in the dried husks of the season's end lies a tiny, silent miracle. We are moving away from the vast web of the mycelium and toward the quiet potential of the seed, a tiny time capsule that holds the entire history of the garden within its shell, waiting for its moment to wake. Consider the seed, this tiny hard speck that rests so quietly in the palm of your hand. To the naked eye, it may look like a pebble or a bit of dried earth, but it is perhaps the most sophisticated time capsule ever designed. Within that tough outer shell lies a miniature version of the plant it will one day become, complete with a tiny root, a tiny stem, and a small supply of energy to help it begin its journey. But for now, it is perfectly still. It is in a state of profound rest called dormancy, a biological pause that allows life to wait for the world to be ready. As you settle deeper into your blankets, imagine the patience of a seed. It does not rush to grow. It does not worry about the passing of the seasons. Instead, it listens to the environment with a quiet chemical sensitivity. It waits for the precise moment when the soil is warm enough, the moisture is plentiful enough, and the light is just right. Some seeds are content to wait for a single winter to pass, while others have a much longer memory. In the quiet corners of the world, scientists have discovered seeds that have been tucked away in the dry, cool darkness for hundreds and even thousands of years. There are stories of ancient lotus seeds found in the silt of a dry lake bed that sprouted into beautiful flowers after resting for 13 centuries. There are seeds found in the frozen Siberian permafrost that have been asleep since the time of the mammoths. Yet when they were gently warmed and given water, they woke up and began to grow as if no time had passed at all. This is the incredible resilience of life. It is the ability to hold on to a dream of green leaves and bright sun while surrounded by the cold and the dark. The seed is a reminder that being still is not the same as being empty. It is a period of preparation, a gathering of strength. Just as you are resting now to prepare for your own tomorrow, the seed is simply waiting for its perfect moment to bloom. It carries within it the wisdom of every plant that came before it, a genetic map that has been refined over millions of years to ensure that when it does finally wake, it knows exactly what to do. Think of the vast number of these tiny miracles scattered across the earth, each one a silent promise of a future garden. They are the bridge between what was and what will be. In the world of our gardens, some of these seeds are held in especially high regard. They are the ones that haven't been changed by modern machines or industrial labs, but have instead been nurtured and saved by human hands for decades or even centuries. These seeds carry more than just biological instructions. They carry the history of families, the flavors of ancient kitchens, and the spirit of the people who tended them. They are the survivors of a changing world, kept safe by those who recognized their unique beauty. As we move from the concept of the seed as a time capsule, we begin to look at these special varieties, the ones we call heirlooms, and the way they connect us to a past that is still very much alive in every bite. You might wonder, as you settle deeper into the quiet of the night, what it truly means for a vegetable to be called an heirloom. It is a beautiful word, isn't it? It suggests something precious, something handed down with care from one generation to the next, like a faded photograph or a well-worn quilt. In the world of gardening, an heirloom is a variety of plant that has a history, a lineage that remains unchanged by the hands of modern industrial farming. To be considered a true heirloom, a vegetable variety is generally at least 50 years old, though many have been tracing their path through the soil for centuries. These are the plants that have been preserved not for their ability to withstand a long journey in a refrigerated truck, but for their soul, their unique flavor, their vibrant colors, and their deep connection to the land they come from. Unlike the modern seeds you might find in a typical hardware store, which are often bred for uniform size and tough skins, heirloom seeds are open-pollinated. This means they are pollinated naturally by the gentle movement of the wind or the steady, rhythmic visit of a honeybee. Because of this, the seeds saved from an heirloom plant will grow into a plant that is almost identical to its parent, carrying the same genetic memory forward through time. When you hold an heirloom seed in your hand, you are holding a tiny, living piece of history. You are holding the same DNA that a farmer in the 1800s might have tucked into the earth on a warm spring morning, or that a family might have carried with them across an ocean to a new home, sewn into the lining of a coat to ensure they would always have a taste of their heritage. Imagine, for a moment, the brandywine tomato. It is perhaps the most famous of all heirlooms, known for its large, heavy fruits that are a soft, dusty pink rather than a bright, artificial red. It doesn't look like a supermarket tomato. It is often lobed and bumpy, with a skin so thin and delicate that it must be handled with the utmost gentleness. But when you taste it, there is a richness, a perfect balance of sweetness and acidity that modern varieties often lose in exchange for durability. Or consider the black futsu squash, a heritage variety from Japan. Its skin is warty and dark, covered in a natural misty bloom that makes it look like a stone pulled from a deep forest. As it matures, it changes from a deep forest green to a warm, nutty chestnut color. To grow these plants is to participate in a long, slow conversation with the past. It is an act of preservation, ensuring that these diverse forms of life continue to flourish in a world that often favors the identical and the mass-produced. As you breathe in and out, feeling the weight of your own body resting against the mattress, you can appreciate the stability of these ancient lines. They have survived through changing climates and shifting cultures, maintained by the quiet dedication of people who simply loved the way they tasted. This sense of history gives the garden a feeling of permanence and peace. But even as we look back at the history of these plants, we can also look closer at the physical reality of the vegetables themselves. We can look at the way they are built, the way they hold themselves up toward the light, and the way they provide that satisfying, crisp sensation when we finally bring them to our table. It is a transition from the story of the seed to the science of the structure, the quiet internal pressure that gives a vegetable its life and its wonderful, refreshing crunch. Think for a moment about the satisfying sound of a fresh snap pea breaking in half, or the crisp, clean crunch of a stalk of celery. That sound is more than just a culinary delight. It is a tiny microscopic explosion of energy and physics. It is the result of a process known as turgor pressure, the invisible force that gives a plant its structure and its strength. As you lie there, perhaps feeling the gentle, steady rhythm of your own breath, you can imagine the millions of tiny cells within a vegetable, each one acting like a miniature pressurized container holding on to the essence of life. Unlike the cells in our own bodies, which are soft and flexible, the cells of a vegetable are encased in a rigid wall made of cellulose. This cellulose is like a fine, sturdy mesh, a microscopic skeleton for every individual cell. But the wall itself isn't enough to make the plant stand tall. Inside that wall sits a large central vacuole, which acts as a storage tank for water. When a plant is healthy and well hydrated, these tanks are filled to the brim. The water inside pushes outward against the cell walls, creating a state of internal tension. This is turgor pressure. It is what allows a delicate leaf to hold itself out toward the sun, and what makes a carrot feel firm and solid in your hand. When you bite into a fresh vegetable and hear that distinctive snap, you are witnessing the sudden release of this internal pressure. You are breaking those rigid cellulose walls and allowing the stored water to escape all at once. It is a testament to the plant's vitality, a sign that it was thriving and full of life right up until the moment it was harvested. It is the physics of freshness, a delicate balance of water and structure held in a quiet, steady tension that we can feel with every bite. But we have all seen what happens when that pressure begins to fade. If a vegetable sits on the counter for too long, or if a plant in the garden goes too many days without a drink, it begins to wilt. The leaves grow soft and limp, losing their ability to hold themselves upright against the pull of gravity. This isn't a sign of permanent loss. It is simply the loss of that internal water pressure. The vacuoles have emptied, and the cell walls, no longer supported from the inside, begin to cave in. In many cases, this process is beautifully reversible. If you place a wilted carrot or a stem of broccoli into a bowl of cool, clean water, the plant will drink deeply through a process called osmosis. The cells will slowly refill, the pressure will return, and the vegetable will become crisp and firm once again. It is a quiet, rhythmic cycle of filling and emptying, a reminder of the resilience of living things. As you feel your own muscles relax and your body grow heavy, you might notice how your own sense of structure changes as you prepare for sleep. You are letting go of the tensions of the day, much like a plant settling into the cool evening air. This deep fundamental connection between water and structure has led scientists and gardeners to wonder just how much of the earth a plant truly needs. If the secret to a vegetable's strength and growth lies so heavily in the water it carries and the minerals dissolved within it, perhaps the soil itself is only one part of the story. This curiosity has led us to explore new, unusual ways of growing food, moving away from the traditional dark earth and into environments that seem almost like a dream. As we look toward the future, we find ourselves stepping out of the garden beds and into a world where plants can flourish in places we once thought impossible, suspended in the air or cradled in a gentle, nutrient-rich mist. Imagine for a moment a garden where the heavy, dark scent of damp earth is absent, replaced instead by the clean, crisp smell of fresh water and a gentle, humid breeze. This is the world of hydroponics, a word that comes from the Greek for waterworking. In these quiet, controlled spaces, the ancient relationship between the plant and the soil is reimagined. Instead of pushing their roots through the resistance of the dirt, searching for pockets of moisture and minerals, the plants find themselves suspended in a state of grace. Their roots are free to stretch out into a slow-moving stream of water, or perhaps they are cradled in a bed of smooth, inert clay pebbles or soft coconut husks. In this environment, the plant doesn't have to work to find its nourishment. All the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium it needs are dissolved directly into the water, flowing past the delicate root hairs in a constant, nourishing rhythm. It is a very efficient, very peaceful way to exist, simply floating and drinking, with everything required for life provided in a steady, gentle flow. You can almost imagine the roots sighing as they expand into the liquid, unburdened by the weight of the ground. Even more ethereal is the practice of aeroponics. Picture a dark, silent chamber where the roots of a plant hang completely in the air, unburdened by any weight or medium at all. In the stillness of this space, a fine, cool mist is released at regular intervals. It is like a soft indoor fog that coats the long white roots in tiny, shimmering droplets of nutrient-rich water. Because the roots are surrounded by air rather than soil, they can breathe more easily than they ever could in the ground. They take in oxygen and moisture simultaneously, growing rapidly and healthily in the cool dark. There is a certain beauty in this minimalism, a plant stripped down to its most essential parts: light, air, and water. This technology is transforming how we think about the future of our world. It allows us to build vertical farms in the heart of busy, crowded cities where layers of leafy greens grow toward soft violet LED lights in quiet, climate-controlled warehouses. It means that even in the driest deserts, where the soil is too parched and sandy to support life, we can create lush oases of kale and herbs using only a small fraction of the water a traditional farm would require. We are learning how to create abundance in places that were once barren, finding clever, quiet ways to flourish where we once thought nothing could grow. As you settle deeper into your blankets, you might find a sense of comfort in the idea of this weightless growth. Just as these plants find strength without the heavy pull of the earth, you are letting go of the weight of your day. You are floating in your own quiet space of rest, supported and still. And as we realize that the earth itself is not strictly necessary for a plant to thrive, our imagination begins to drift even higher. We begin to wonder what happens when we leave the atmosphere altogether, carrying the silent, resilient seeds of the garden into the vast, star-filled reaches of space. Imagine, for a moment, the deepest quiet of the International Space Station. There, high above the clouds and the weather, drifting in the silent, star-filled reaches of low Earth orbit, humans have found a way to bring the garden with them. In this sterile, high-tech environment, there is a small, glowing sanctuary known as the Vegetable Production System, or simply Veggie. It is a light, foldable chamber designed to provide a little piece of the living world to those who are far from home, floating in the weightless dark. Inside this quiet chamber, plants grow not in the open ground, but in what scientists call plant pillows. These are small, sealed bags filled with a special type of calcined clay and a slow-release fertilizer designed to keep the roots anchored and nourished in the absence of gravity. Without the pull of the earth to guide them, the roots might become confused, but the veggie system uses gentle colored LED lights to show them the way. Red and blue lights provide the specific energy the leaves need for photosynthesis, while a soft green light is added so that, to the human eye, the plants look like the lush, vibrant greens we remember from the world below. In 2015, a significant milestone was reached when astronauts for the first time harvested and ate a crop of red romaine lettuce grown entirely in space. This particular variety, known as outrageous lettuce, was chosen for its resilience and its beautiful, deep crimson leaves. For the astronauts, the experience was about more than just nutrition. After months of eating vacuum-sealed processed meals, the simple act of biting into a fresh, crisp leaf was described as a profound sensory joy. They found that the smell of the growing greens and the sight of something living and breathing in the middle of their metal home provided a deep sense of peace and connection. NASA discovered that this space gardening had a measurable effect on the mental health of the crew, tending to the small sprouts, watching them unfurl their leaves day by day, served as a vital emotional bridge to Earth. It reminded them of the seasons, the soil, and the constant, quiet rhythm of life that continues whether we are on the ground or among the stars. It is a testament to our deep, ancient connection with the vegetable kingdom. Even in the most futuristic of settings, we find our greatest comfort in the simple, slow growth of a seed. You lie there, perfectly still. You might imagine yourself looking out of a small, thick window at the earth below. From this height, the planet looks like a glowing marble-like jewel of deep blues and soft, mossy greens. Take a slow, deep breath, feeling as light and unburdened as a leaf floating in orbit. You are safe, you are held, and you are part of a world that is constantly growing and renewing itself. Now, let our perspective drift back down, through the layers of the atmosphere, past the high clouds and the cooling air, until we return to the familiar, grounded peace of a backyard garden at night. As the sun disappears and the stars begin to twinkle through the branches of the trees, the vegetables on earth are beginning a ritual of their own. Just as we prepare for rest, the plants have their own way of settling in for the night, a quiet movement that mirrors our own need for sleep. Imagine, if you will, the moon hanging high over a row of garden beans. To our eyes, in this moment, it might look like the plants are perfectly still, but if we were to watch very closely, perhaps through the lens of a slow-motion camera, we would see a quiet, graceful dance. This phenomenon is known to scientists as nystynesti. It comes from the Greek words for night and pressing close, and it describes the way many vegetables and plants literally move to prepare for the darkness. As you lie there, feeling the weight of your own limbs grow heavy and relaxed, consider the way a common green bean plant settles in for the night. It isn't a movement of muscles, but a subtle shifting of water. At the base of each leaf, there is a tiny, pillow-like structure called a pulvinus. As the light fades and the evening air cools, the plant shifts the water pressure within these cells, causing the leaves to droop or fold upward. It is as if the plant is folding its hands in a quiet gesture of peace, or pulling a soft green blanket tied around its stem to keep the world away for a while. There are many reasons why the vegetable garden engages in this nightly ritual. Some scientists believe it helps the plant shed the heavy morning dew, allowing the moisture to roll off the folded leaves so they don't become too weighed down or prone to the chilly dampness of the night. Others suggest it is a way to stay warm, trapping a tiny pocket of the day's residual heat within the folds of the foliage. Whatever the specific biological purpose, it is a beautiful reminder that even the most stationary of living things has a rhythm, a way of signaling that the work of the day is done and it is finally time to rest. As you adjust your own covers and find that perfect, comfortable position, you might imagine the leaves of the runner beans in a garden nearby, slowly tilting upward until they touch, standing like small living tents in the pale moonlight. The peas, too, tuck their delicate curly tendrils in, settling into a state of quiet conservation. This is the garden's bedtime routine, a peaceful closing of the eyes that mirrors your own. The energy of the sun, gathered throughout the afternoon, is now stored away in the roots and stems, and the plant focuses its quiet, internal strength on growing in the silence. While the leaves are folded and the garden seems to slumber in a deep green dream, there is a sense of gentle anticipation in the stillness. The vibrant yellow flowers of the squash and the delicate blossoms of the tomato are closed tight now, protecting their precious pollen from the night air. They are waiting for the first soft light of dawn to unfurl their petals once more. They are waiting for their most important visitors, the tiny winged messengers who will wake with the sun to continue the ancient cycle of life. Even in this deep midnight quiet, the garden is preparing for the morning and for the arrival of the small, rhythmic hum that brings the world back to life. In the darkness, the flowers hold their breath, ready for the gentle touch of a friend who will help them turn their blossoms into the harvest of tomorrow. As the first soft light of dawn touches the garden, the silence is broken by a low, steady hum. It is the sound of the bumblebee, a gentle giant of the insect world, beginning its morning rounds among the blossoms. While many think of bees simply flying from flower to flower, there is a much deeper, more musical science at work here, a process known as buzz pollination or sonication. For some vegetables, like the tomato, the eggplant, or the bell pepper, the pollen is tucked away inside tiny tube-like structures called anthers. It isn't easily blown away by the wind or brushed off by a passing butterfly. To release this golden dust, the flower requires a very specific vibration, a physical key to unlock its treasure. When a bumblebee lands on a tomato blossom, it curls its body around the center of the flower and begins to vibrate its powerful flight muscles. It doesn't flap its wings. Instead, it creates a high-pitched, resonant buzz that matches a specific frequency. Often close to the musical note of middle C, you can almost feel that vibration in your own chest, a soft, rhythmic pulsing that resonates through the cool morning air. This frequency causes the pollen to release in a sudden, microscopic cloud, coating the bee's fuzzy body so it can be carried to the next flower. It is a moment of perfect invisible engineering. The flower holds its treasure tight until the right visitor arrives with the right song to unlock it. There is a profound harmony in this exchange. The bee receives the nourishment it needs to sustain itself and its hive, and in return, it ensures that the blossom will eventually swell into a heavy, sun-ripened fruit. It is a partnership built on trust and physics, a quiet conversation between a plant and an insect that has been occurring for millions of years. As you listen to that imagined hum, you can feel the steady, reliable pulse of the garden's life, a rhythm that persists even when we are not there to witness it. This tireless work continues through the long golden days of summer as the garden reaches its peak of productivity. But as the weeks pass, you might notice the light changing. The shadows grow longer on the garden path, and the air begins to hold a new, sharper clarity. The busy hum of the bees starts to fade as they tuck themselves away for the season, and the vegetable garden begins its slow transition into the next phase of its life. The vibrant greens of summer start to mellow into the deep ambers and earthy browns of autumn. The season of frantic growth is ending, and a new, colder beauty is beginning to settle over the rows of earth, preparing the garden for the quiet, crystalline peace of the winter months ahead. In this cooling air, the garden does not die. It simply changes its focus, moving its energy from the bright flowers of the surface down into the deep, protected heart of the soil. As the last of the autumn leaves drift to the ground, a profound silence settles over the garden. The air is sharp and clean, carrying the faint, crisp scent of the coming frost. You might imagine that the life of the garden has come to a halt, but beneath the surface of the silvered soil, a quiet and vital transformation is taking place. This is the peace of the winter garden, a time of stillness and deep restorative rest that is just as essential as the frantic growth of spring. There are certain vegetables that wait for this cold, embracing the chill as a signal to change. Consider the parsnip with its long ivory root buried deep in the earth, or the hardy winter carrot tucked safely away from the biting wind. While other plants might wither at the first touch of ice, these roots thrive in the cooling ground. In fact, many experienced gardeners will tell you that a parsnip should never be harvested until the ground has frozen at least once. There is a beautiful scientific reason for this patience, a secret hidden within the plant's own chemistry that only reveals itself when the temperature drops. When the soil cools toward the freezing point, the plant begins a remarkable process of self-preservation. It starts to convert its stored starches, those complex energy reserves built up during the sunny days of summer, into simple sugars. You can think of this as a natural form of antifreeze. Pure water freezes at a certain temperature, but a sugar solution has a much lower freezing point. By flooding its cells with these concentrated sugars, the vegetable prevents the water inside its tissues from turning into sharp ice crystals, which would otherwise damage its delicate cell walls. This internal alchemy is what gives winter-harvested vegetables their extraordinary honey-like sweetness. The cold, which seems so harsh to the world above, is actually the very thing that brings out the plant's most nourishing qualities. It is a quiet lesson in resilience. The plant doesn't fight the winter, it simply adapts, turning the challenge of the frost into a source of sweetness and strength. As you imagine these roots resting in the cool, dark earth, protected by their own sugary essence, you might feel a similar sense of protection within your own space. The world outside may be cold, and the night air may be still and heavy, but you are tucked away, warm and settled. Just as the garden uses the winter to concentrate its energy and refine its spirit, you are allowing yourself this time to simply be. There is no rush, no requirement to grow or produce in this moment. Like the sweetened roots and the sleeping seeds, you are resting in preparation for a future you don't yet need to meet. The garden is quiet now, its long journey through the seasons reaching a soft, frozen plateau. As the stars begin to peer through the crisp, clear air, the entire landscape seems to hold its breath in a state of perfect icy grace, drifting slowly toward a final, deep stillness. The garden is now still. The air has grown thin and cool, and a deep velvet silence has settled over the rows of soil and the sleeping leaves. If you listen closely, you can almost hear the earth breathing, a slow, rhythmic pulse that mirrors your own. The long journey through the vegetable kingdom, which began with a single seed in the dark, has reached its quiet conclusion. We have traveled together from the hidden world of the root, where purple carrots once grew in ancient soils and beets whispered of the coming rain, through the sturdy stalks of corn swaying in the summer breeze. We have marveled at the mathematical perfection of the Romanesco spiral and the hidden solar panels within a leaf of spinach, capturing the sun's light to fuel the world. Think back on the many wonders we've explored, the three sisters standing in a supportive embrace, the cooling water trapped inside a crisp cucumber, and the humble potato storing its starchy energy for a winter it knows is coming. We've looked toward the stars, imagining the soft glow of red romaine lettuce growing in the silence of orbit, and we've delved deep into the wood wide web, where mushrooms act as the quiet messengers of the forest floor. All of these things, the pigments that turn a pepper red, the sleep movements of a leaf folding at dusk, the ancient history carried within a single heirloom seed, they are all part of a grand, peaceful design. There is a profound comfort in the realization that even when the world seems quiet and dormant, life is never truly still. Even now, as you drift closer to sleep, there is a gentle, constant growth happening all around you. In the garden outside, or perhaps in a field miles away, cells are dividing. Water is climbing through invisible straw-like tubes, and the earth is preparing for the next cycle of the sun. This growth does not require your effort. It does not demand your attention. It simply persists, steady and sure, as it has for millions of years. You are a part of this system, held by the same laws of biology and physics that govern the tallest tree and the smallest sprout. As you settle into your final moments of wakefulness, allow yourself to feel as grounded as a root in the cool, dark earth. Your day is done, and the work of the sun is over. The garden has tucked itself in, the stomata of the leaves have closed, and the pollinators have returned to their hives. The world is safe, the night is long, and you are exactly where you needed to be. Take one last slow breath, in through the nose, feeling the cool air fill you, and out through the mouth, letting every remaining tension melt away into the mattress. The stars are watching over the fields, and the moon is casting its silver light over the quiet rows of green. Everything is in its right place. The seeds are waiting, the roots are resting, and the earth is turning. There is nothing left for you to do but let go. Sink deeper into the warmth of your blankets, feeling the weight of your body becoming one with the stillness of the room. The journey is complete, and the garden is at peace. Sleep now, surrounded by the quiet science of life. Sleep deeply, and wake only when the world is ready to bloom again. Good night.